In theaters now from director Joachim Rønning and Disney is TRON ARES. This is the third in the what became a series of Tron films, an incredibly unlikely series of Tron films. It's on the big screen, it's in IMAX, it's in Dolby, it's in Wazoo Vision, it's however you want to watch it. It is in theaters now. Now, I have a little bit of a history with Tron. I went to see the original Tron opening weekend with my uncle, and my memory of doing that is going opening night, first show on Friday night at my local Claremont Triple Cinemas strip mall 3-screener built in the late 70s. Sitting in that theater early, as is my habit, like to get there a half hour early. And these were the days before you had incessant commercials before the film. You just sat there with the lights up and pleasant music playing. And I sat there, and before you had a phone, so you just kind of sat there and spaced out or thought about things. And we sat there and we wondered if anybody else was going to show up. Tron was not a success when it first came out. Disney wanted it to be, and it marketed it like it would be, but it really kind of wasn't. So we sat there, and eventually a few people came in. There might have been maybe 20 people in the theater total for a Friday night at 7 o'clock. And I thought that the movie was really cool. I got the Tron action figure, still have it, Tron activity book, a few bits of Tron, memorabilia at the time. And then the movie was kind of forgotten over time. And it wasn't really until the Laserdisc came out that I saw anybody treating Tron with any kind of really reverence or respect. And as the 90s rolled on and people really got more and more back into retro gaming and the cyber world and all that, Tron really became more of a cult film. We got Tron Legacy, a sequel several years ago that did okay, great looking movie, great sounding movie. And now we have Tron Ares, once again going back into the world of Tron. This is a film that does link to the other two films that came before it. Honestly, I have not watched either. I've only watched Tron Legacy once, and I haven't seen Tron proper in a really long time. So this review is really going to come at you for someone who is vaguely aware of this franchise, aware of it, but does not retain any of it. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to go to this movie not having seen the others, or will be dragged by somebody who likes the others. I'm talking to you. So Tron Ares, what is it about? It's about 2 hours, actually. It is, I will say, it looks and sounds fabulous. This movie has cool effects. It's got a cool, sleek look to it. And the Nine Inch Nails soundtrack, synthy soundtrack, is very cool. So it is an aesthetically enjoyable experience in the theater. This film picks up after the events of the previous two. It does link to the others. There's a lot of exposition via these little screens that pop up in this cyber world of news reports that kind of get us up to speed on what has happened in the past. And they drop the name Flynn, who is portrayed by Jeff Bridges in the previous films. And they talk about, his son and the legacy of the company that he built and some other company that is run by the grandson of the David Warner character, who was the bad guy in the original Tron, is trying to take over the Flynn company, or maybe they have merged. The young grandson is portrayed by Evan Peters, not so young, but not as old as David Warner would be right now. And his mother is portrayed by Gillian Anderson. And we have Greta Lee as Eve Kim, and she is half of a pair of sisters who have been successfully running the former Flynn company. And there's all this corporate takeover, merger, whatever stuff going on. The basic thrust of the film, as it were, is they are looking for the MacGuffin. Oh, excuse me. It's called the Permanence Code. It is something that allegedly exists that Flynn hid somewhere that allows things from the cyber world, the Tron world, let's say. In case you're unaware of the concept of Tron, the idea in the original film was that Jeff Bridges was this computer programmer and video game designer who gets zapped into the computer world, which is kind of a ridiculous concept. He gets zapped into the world of computers, inside computers, the electronics and bits and bytes and pulses of energy in which are people. He gets zapped inside the computer world, and there are people walking around, and he can actually live the games that he is designing and playing, and you see the circuit boards and the circuitry. It was a really visionary kind of movie, a very cool looking movie. But as I'm watching Tron Ares, I'm like, this is just silly. The idea that there are people inside your computer or inside your software that what the story of this film is that they have found a way to use lasers and some kind of special computer wiggery jiggery to take things from the computer world and basically 3D print them into our world. So those really cool vehicles from Tron past and inside the games and things like that, you could use laser 3D printers to create and they exist in the real world. And you could bring people out of that cyber world into the real world. So young Julian Dillinger, portrayed by Evan Peters, the grandson of the bad guy in the original film, is trying to get a defense contract to make these amazing 3D printed, let's just call it, weapons of war, and a super soldier, ARES, who is portrayed by Jared Leto in this film. And the idea is that he's going to sell that to the government or sell that to defense contractors or munitions makers or whatever, and have a new super soldier, super force. The only problem is these things fall apart after like 20 minutes or a certain amount of time. So they're looking for this permanence code. They're hunting for where this might be hidden somewhere physically or in the cyber world to put that code into their programming so that they can make things and they'll just stay real. They'll stay physical. So that's the basic idea of this. So you have the Greta Lee character, who's the good person trying to stop something bad, trying to get this and use it for good, trying to create, something that would allow a tree to grow somewhere that it shouldn't grow, or endless food supply or something like this. And then you have the Dillinger, the Evan Peters bad guy character, trying to use it for war and badness and power and money and all that. So somewhere in here you have Jared Leto as ARES, who is the puppet who wanted to be a real boy, basically. That's kind of what we're going with here. And you have people from the cyber world coming into the real world and people from the real world going into the cyber world. And it's basically flipping the script, whereas in the other films you had somebody who was in our reality going into the cyber world. Well, in this one, it's all different. We have the cyber world coming here, which I always thought when it was a movie like a time travel movie, I always thought the cheapest cheat, lame thing was to have somebody from a fantasy world coming to our world. It's a fish out of water story, and there's comedic possibilities and dramatic possibilities. But for me, it was always like, so you don't want to spend a lot of money on sets, and you just want to have the Beastmaster running around Los Angeles, and all you need to do is have a guy in a loincloth. That's kind of what we're doing here. That was my initial thought when I saw that TRON ARES was going that way. The film was entertaining. It was engaging. It was fun. It was funny. It was very cool. I will not begrudge at any of that. It's entertaining. It's just a simple, entertaining film that I think pretty much anybody, whether you've seen these movies or not in the past, can enjoy. Some people don't like Jared Leto. Didn't bother me at all. My whole thing was, number one, the concept, now that I think about it at whatever age I am right now, is pretty silly. And beyond that, I get choked up when I talk about silly concepts. Beyond that, if it's the cyber world and it's just this world where it's bits and bytes and things, why are people different races? Why do people have different hair color and styles? Why does Jared Leto's character have long hair if he's like a cyber blip? Why do people have different accents when they're all in this same world? That was the case in the original Tron too, so it's nothing new in this film. In the original Tron, you had people with British accents, and some were older, and some were younger, and some were male, and some were female. And just the overall idea is, I get chalked up when I think about Sidney Morgan, who's no longer with us anymore. Maybe I'm thinking way too much about this, because it didn't bother me as a kid, and it hasn't bothered generations of fans of Tron, but that's just what was rolling through my head while I was watching it. It does do callbacks and fan service to the original film in a pretty big way. It does have a mid-credit sequence. So when the credits start, don't get up and leave. There's one little mid-credit sequence, and then that's it. At the very, very end, I stayed to the very end just so I can tell you if there's anything there. At the very, very end, what you see is the Tronified Disney logo again, but you see that right up front too. So if you really have to pee, if you got the combo at the theater with the soda that's this big and the popcorn that's this big, and maybe you got a refill, and nature is calling really strongly. Once that little mid-credit sequence happens, feel free, unless you want to pay respect to all who worked on this film, which was not a small number of people, feel free to take off and answer the call, because there's nothing more fresh in the film. So clearly this film is angling hard for sequels. The way Hollywood thinks now, I'm sure the plan is we're going to do a trilogy. But it's entertaining. Let's just say that. And it is very entertaining and cool in a theater. So I'm a big fan of movie theaters. I happen to work at a movie theater, and I want theaters to continue to exist. So I always encourage people, yes, it's expensive, but please go out and see it. Have the experience. Turn off your phone. engage with the vibe of a crowd watching a film together and seeing something on a huge screen. I happened to see this in Dolby. It looked and sounded great. I know IMAX, this is formatted for IMAX too, so that might have been the better way to go. IMAX just happened to not be open in the theater that I usually go to at that time. But in theaters now, on video forevermore, probably in an extended version once it hits 4K, TRON ARES.